Zuccaire Gallery. I am also a junior biology major, and here we are. Today we're going to be celebrating and honoring Environmental Awareness Month. So I'm going to give it away to my other two fellow interns to also introduce themselves.
Kiana, you could go.
Okay. My name is Kiana. I am an educational intern. I'm also a studio art senior. Currently, I'm graduating this semester, and I will be helping everybody with their craft today, where we will be making a pot, decorating a pot out of a recycled material.
And I'm Grace. I'm an education intern also at the Zuccaire Gallery. I am currently a junior, and yeah, just a small disclaimer, we are recording this event just for future purposes and because we do have two special guests today. So if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to keep your camera off or just type in the chat.
Yes, and as Grace mentioned, we do have two special guests. We have our guest artist, Annemarie Waugh, who is graduating, congratulations, MFA student in studio art, whose work surrounds environmental themes as well as like environmental activism. And we also have Evan Joo, who is a social media manager and volunteer program manager of the Ashley Schiff Preserve, and both of our special guests will be giving presentations today. So I'm gonna give it off to Annemarie if you would like to start.
Hi everyone, I'm Annemarie, and for this presentation I was going to show a very short little movie, and then I will show you some of my environmental projects. So I'm a visual artist, I'm a painter, and I write poetry. I use a lot of text in my work. I also do graphic design. I make paintings, videos, little sculptures, and sand pieces. Okay, so I thought we could start this off by looking at this video of plants. Studies have proven that indoor plants improve concentration and productivity, reduce stress levels, and boost your mood. So I thought we'd start off with this little mood booster. So watch this, breathe deeply, and think about nature and plants. Think about the woods. This is star magnolia in my garden. Wobbly hands and simply. So I kind of live in a forest and I'm surrounded by oak trees and rhododendrons and azaleas. And that's kind of it. So I'll take you through some projects that were environmentally themed. This is a project that I did in Riverhead in the farmers market space, which was this 5,000 square foot space, an old retail store. This is called Hanging on a Thread, and it was a painting of all the endangered species, mostly marine animals, hanging on threads with steel pins like bats, piping plovers. This was a series that were text pieces of vanishing species, and I'm just showing you clam, which was executed in graphite on paper. These were large wall pieces in the same exhibit, going, gone, going, almost gone, honeybee. And they were large drawings, again, rolled out on the wall of endangered animals, mostly from Long Island. This was in the same exhibit entitled Erased, and it also contained some plastic flotsam pieces that I often collect things in nature on beaches around, and here again are mainly the same animals erased. Jumping to 2019, this was a project called the Flower Power Association, and it was all about the gossiping flowers in my garden. So the main characters are rhododendrons, the ferns, and Mrs. Bunny, and they kind of talk about how the dog is peeing on them and how the neighbours are spraying pesticides. So I often enter my work with humour, and that kind of, through humour, I kind of try to allow people to kind of think about environmental issues. So the whole story I wrote out in garden soil. Often my materials are taken from the theme of the project. So in this case, it was my garden. So I mixed up, I actually boiled garden soil with water, and you can see Mrs. Bunny, and she's quite a large painting as well. This is a closer view of the garden soil on handmade paper. I've made quite a bit of handmade paper. This was another project about the monarch butterfly. So I wrote a poem in her voice, and I gave out the poem to viewers, which had a little seed pocket or pouch attached to it, so they could read the poem, and then the idea was that they would scatter the seeds to help the monarchs. And I also created the alphabet with soil and the embedded milkweed seeds. I also did a whole set of the whole alphabet created out of milkweed seeds, and I'm just showing you the E here. Another project, this project was about nail biting, and it's quite graphic in its execution, but it was all painted with nail polish, and I kind of created the characters from the chemicals in nail polish. So you see endochrome disruptor, #1, and she's quite large, and formaldehyde. I also had the phthalate family. I don't show that here. And I wrote the whole poem out in different colours of the nail polish, which was a crazy research project with many interesting names of polishes. This was a part of an installation at the Alloway Gallery here on campus. This is Pitch Pine Emoji, and as you see, he's not very happy, he's crying. Viewers could call the number and they would hear his story, which was actually the sound of the chainsaw. This is part of the same installation entitled Shucked, and I liked its rhyming possibilities. It was a sound installation about the decline of the Peconic Bay scallop. Last year, 90% of the scallops it really declined by 90%, the population. So I wrote this story about this woman called Lulu, who was in a restaurant trying to order the peconic-based scallop, but she couldn't really understand why she wasn't able to get that for dinner. And she said things like, are they saving it for some celebrity bash? You can actually hear the story if you're interested on my website. And it's the sound cone. You sit on the bench and you can hear the story played through the sound cone. As you look at this, you can make it out. It's an antique scallop dredge. So I used that pattern, the scallop dredge pattern, and painted it on the wall. And I had props, so audience members could play with, you know, the fish, who was this plush Nemo, because of overfishing. So it was a sound, audience participation. Also, I make a lot of small sculptures, quite often with plastic, and this is called Boom or Bust. This is also part of the same show. I worked with some coral and embedded plastic and plastic dip within the objects. My current project, which is on display at the Zuccaire Gallery, is called The Developer's Midnight Fantasy. And it's really a series of artworks about the fragility of the forest. And during COVID, I wanted to escape, and walking in the woods, walking in nature has always been my escape. And at the same time, I noticed the last few wooded areas around where I live were being cut down, seemingly overnight, and a McMansion would appear. This really caused me to think how quickly nature is disappearing. And I know this is true, very sad for Long Island, but our forests are really disappearing. So I wrote a poem which actually visually makes a tree stump. And many of the work's titles are from the poem. This is installing the show. And for the paintings, they're on bark paper, which is this really beautiful pre-Columbian Mexican amate paper. But I've woven through construction materials. So caution tapes, flagging tapes, mason's twine. They are woven through and break through this bark. This is another piece which has a canvas backing. I'm kind of, I do work very intuitively when I paint, and I consider these paintings with, you know, construction materials, not paint, although the background is painted, and the peeking through is kind of like little escapes. And I'm very much interested in color and layers, but the kind of screening, the bark screens the painting, kind of how, you know, when an area is going to be, say a forest is being cut down, developers screen off, and then you don't really see what's happening. And then you kind of, it all seems to happen at midnight, and the next day you wake up and the forest has gone. That's a close-up where you can see how it's woven through. That's even closer. And you see the caution tape. And some of the pieces were picked up from the seashore as well, these red balloons, which seem sadly to be everywhere on beaches. So I'm really thinking about nature, how sadly we're ruining it. And as I said, I do try to find humour in my work. There is not too much humour in the forest being cut down. there are quite a few different size paintings in the show. The smaller one you see is called Mouse's Tail, and he has the mouse's tail is hanging off the piece, and that one is just black and white. For me, in art, anything is possible, and this thought has always stayed with me, and that kind of makes me want to continue making art. Some small sculptures. This piece is kind of a self-portrait, Barking Mad, and that's an oak bark with house paint and some flagging tape and tied up with this sloppy bow. And Snail and Moth, a black, smaller painting, again using the same materials, and this one is backed with a drawing and has text painted onto the bark. I also made a 2-minute video which is on the back wall in the Zuccaire Gallery. So I think the show is up until the 18th. If you get a chance, please go see the show. It's much better in person than on Zoom. I know it's opened Monday through Friday from 12 till 2. I'll just play you this short, it's 2 minutes. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound, but there is the sound of the animals.
It's like a soft creaking. Yes, Annemarie, we can hear.
You can hear that. This was shot on a friend's property. She lives on the edge of the woods in rural Connecticut, Warren, Connecticut. And we put up this outside motion detector camera, and she has a compost heap. And these are all the animals we captured at different times of the day: bobcats, possums, and they're quite magical. And the poem is played on the video in the center. And that I was walking through a forest actually in Islip, and those horses came by. Some of the forest is actually on campus in the Ashley Schiff Preserve, or Clara's Woods. And then tree graffiti in Avalon Park. Those of you who live in the area probably know Avalon Park. This shows you how the small sculptures are displayed on a sawhorse table, which seemed fitting. And a close-up of, this was my favorite, or this is my favorite sculpture, Buried Treasure with holly berries, from my favorite line in the poem. Ivy League, which is kind of a play on the university. And Burr, which someone brought over to my house, this plastic container with Ferrero's Rochers, and I just thought the burrs fit really nicely in place. I do like the chocolates, but I wish they wouldn't use so much plastic. So I kept it, and it became this sculpture. So I'm really interested in the man-made with nature, I don't have an image of another painting in the show, and I'm not sure why I don't. I should, but it has actual acorns on it, and it's not with bark. It's actually with, you know, the orange screen that builders use to screen off the area, and it has acorns. So the acorns are kind of fighting with the man-made. Oh, and this is a current piece. I'm doing a whole series of trees. This is Holly. She just had her eyebrows done and she's not very happy with them, but I'm writing Holly's story, and once the oak trees wake up, I'm going to do oak's story and probably chestnut, because I might be able to get some chestnut trees or little branches, as well as birch. I'll do birch. So I'm doing a whole series of trees, and they'll all have a story that you can call in and listen to their story. And then this is also a recent sculpture. I found this beautiful scales at an antique show, and you know, I also magically found this seahorse on the beach when I was walking on the beach, actually out in the Hamptons, in Hampton Bays, and the seahorse is really, really light. Even though plastic is really, really light, it's still weighing down nature. I have not gotten a name for this piece yet, but if anyone has any ideas, I am listening. But that's it. So thank you from forests and animals everywhere. Please save us and enjoy nature. And if you're on campus, take a walk through Ashley Schiff, which Evan's going to tell you all about, or Cara's Woods. They're both magical forests, and they've been true inspiration for me for the past, you know, many years, since the past 3 years, and my studio is right next to it, so I go there all the time. But that's it.
Thank you so much, Annemarie. I actually want to open up the floor to the audience and to anyone who may have any questions or anything, or any type of comments that they would also like to speak on with us and with Annemarie. Also, you don't have to like directly say, you can also type in the chat if that's like any more comfortable for you to do.
Actually, I would like to ask something from Annemarie. I know that you presented the video, and while at the gallery, I noticed that some of the responses from visitors was how nice it was to have it divided, and how well coordinated the image on the top was with the image on the bottom, and thought-provoking. And some people were even wondering how you came about creating this idea with the video. How did that start?
I haven't seen any of those comments, so thank you for bringing it up. I'll have to go and see. It really, I wanted, the poem is kind of represents the yellow caution tape to split the screen, and I really love, I don't know, it felt like the right language for this in making the video. Sort of the idea initially was, you know, nature's getting piled up upon, so nature is underneath, but it really became more about the animals. So I just wanted to get people to see the animals and really think about nature and think about the forest and how valuable a resource forests are.
I see, thank you.
Yeah, I also had a question. I kind of want to know, like, where did, I guess in your art history, did like the incorporation of environmental activism, I guess you can say, like start? Because I know like people have their own personal interests and they may not directly incorporate that into their art, and they may kind of like keep that separate. But like, where did that drive for environmentalism and activism, like when did that start and how did that start, or why did it start?
Oh, I think, I've always been sort of inspired by nature, and living on Long Island, really, when I lived in the city, I would escape to Central Park or Riverside Park. But that played a part. But when I moved to Long Island, I think nature, walking on beaches is something, I do every day. So it's a huge part. And, artists are influenced by what's around them.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
So we are going to switch, or not really switch gears, but we're going to move on with our continuation on our topic with Evan. Thank you also for coming.
Okay, should I start?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I am Evan. I'm from the Friends of the Ashley Schiff Preserve. I'm the social media manager and the volunteer program manager, and I'm here to talk about the preserve and environmental awareness to you guys. So, all right. Before we start, do we all know where the preserve is?
No.
No? Ah,
So,
very sad. Okay, so
oh, somebody said yes.
I like
Thank
that
you.
answer. I like that answer. So you guys can see my mouse, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's Roth Pond, and that's South Campus, where SOMAS, the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences, with dental school, and this area is the Ashley Schiff Preserve. That's the hospital, and that's the West Apartments on SBU campus. It's 26.6 acre forever wild land on SBU campus, but it never acquired a fully protected, legally protected status. We're only one step away from acquiring the permanent protection status from the university. University president just has to sign it, but we'll see how that goes. It was named after Dr. Ashley Schiff, who is a political science professor at Stony Brook, who specialized in forest conservation policy. He passed away young back in 1969, and university professor, he was a really popular professor, so university president asked the students how we want to honor him. Like, so he offered everyone like, oh, what if we name a building after him? And all the students said no. He loved the forest. He took students to the forest all the time. So why don't we name a forest after him and protected area forever wild to remember him? That's how the preserve was born back in 1969. It's home to 75 different plant species, including some of the New York state recognized vulnerable species, and the geological features, all the hills and rocks, they were formed back when Long Island was being formed 20,000 years ago. So that little red patch in the center is the preserve, and this is the aerial photography from 1947, back when campus didn't even existed. And now we see the shape of the campus in 1962, and that's also when we were losing a lot of forest, as you can see here. And that's also when the students of the campus were protesting to raise the awareness on this matter. And that's 1969 was the year when Dr. Schiff passed away. And university media, local media was also trying to raise awareness about his work and his concerns for the environment. Here's a picture for 1978, 2007, 2013, 2019, and this is the project I did using GIS technology. So I mapped the areas where the areas that are covered by trees, and I overlaid the university development plan, which includes the loss of these areas. Well, this is the hotel, but which used to be also a forest, and the East Dining was also a forest as well on campus. People don't believe that, but when I was freshman, it was just forested area. And so these areas are all going to be gone. So we're going to only lose more trees on our campus as well. When we think about environmental awareness, there are many different types of environmental awareness. One is the global one, the big climate change, bigger issues, regional issues, local issues, Long Island issues, campus issues, and personal issues, which concerns your impact towards the environment, and personal knowledge. The personal knowledge on environmental awareness can be something very simple, such as you knowing what's in your salad that you had maybe this week or last week. Do you know every single vegetable that's in there? Or can you tell something? I can't even tell, honestly. Like when I order salad, I can't even tell sometimes. Or can you tell the difference between a frog and a toad? Some people don't know. Some people do. So there are different levels of environmental awareness. And speaking of awareness, I have a quiz for everyone. What's the name of these two species here? You can just unmute yourself and speak out.
Or titmouse and Pikachu?
You get the Pikachu, right?
A rodent.
That's it's like calling an animal. Yes, it is a rodent. Anyone else? All right, so that's a Pikachu. And that's a meadow jumping mouse, which is one of the very few native mammals on Long Island. There was a study done in the UK asking about 150 80-year-old kids, asking, do you know this Pokemon and do you know this wildlife species in their own area? Most of the kids knew about like 80% of the Pokemon that they were shown, like 150 of them, but only 30% of the wildlife species around them. So sometimes, the name and the pictures of, otters or oak tree is less familiar than Pikachu. And that was before YouTube time too. So who knows what it's going to be like now. Just to go a little deeper on students' awareness, students' level of awareness on SVU campus, I've been conducting surveys targeting the SVU students, asking different questions about environmental awareness. I'm actually still doing it this year too. But when I asked them about their general concern for the natural environment, a lot of them care a lot. And if they care about knowing about the ecosystem of the campus, a lot of them say yes as well, which is a very good sign. But only half of them, kind of like our presentation, only half of them knew about the existence of the preserve on campus. So maybe it's the marketing issue, or maybe it's this lack of attention from the students. But most of the students were very willing to protect the ecosystem and the preserve and the forest on campus. So we really have a good audience, and the ways that they want to help the protection process are sharing it on social media, volunteer work. There are so many different types of work that they said they're willing to do. So events like this, inspiring other people and is increasing the knowledge on local ecosystem, can really be effective in the future as well, in the future. And when I thought of actually seeing Annemarie's presentation, I thought of the similarities between the environment and the arts. And the first one is that they're both timeless. Once the artwork is created, they're permanent, and the image of that artwork goes generations after generation. And so as the environment, once it's out there and within the circle of life, it life always finds a way to sustain itself. Sometimes we just have to take one step back so they can heal themselves and they can evolve. And both of them requires our attention. Without our awareness and without our its presence in our minds, no matter what happens, we're not going to know, and we're not going to be able to help them. Just like how artworks always requires our attention. Without our attention, without us seeing it, it wouldn't be able to deliver its own message to the audience, to the viewers. And it's natural. The inspiration, for example, the artworks that Annemarie showed us today, the lines, colors, the message, the idea itself, everything is very natural. It's very human. So as the nature itself, and they're always, both of them are inspirational. Nature and artworks, they both make us to act and think, and make us to always interpret those messages that are sometimes unknown in different ways. And we sometimes use art, and we sometimes use literature, and all different measures to fully understand it and spread the idea to the others. And now we're going back to the different types of environmental awareness. You can use opportunities like today to think about your personal impact towards the environment, and what the environment, how the environment can inspire you, and how the artwork can be inspired, and how the artwork can inspire you and others in the future. Just like how the students who are volunteering at the preserve came up with this great paintings of the nature they see around them. If you're curious about what the Friends of the Ashley Schiff does, visit www.ashleyschiff.org. And if you have any questions, you can email us, and you can also follow the Instagram page if you're there and want to stay connected. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Evan. That was so much useful and really information that I personally did not know. And as somebody who at least previously lived on campus, that's quite sad that I didn't know, but I'm glad that I really got that and that you were able to also share that. So does anybody have any questions right now for Evan that they would like to ask? Once again, you can type in the chat as well.
Yeah, I had a question. Evan, how did you first get involved with the Ashley Schiff Preserve?
So I lived on campus all 4 years, but I didn't know that the preserve existed till my second year, until I kind of got lost on campus, and I was staring at the campus map, and I'm like, we have a preserve? So I came up with the survey project when I was second year student, I think. So I was like, if I didn't know, no one else would know. So let's do a survey project asking everyone if they know about this. So since then, I've been involved, and even after I graduated, I still do the volunteer work for them.
You know, you bring a very valid point. I've lived on campus, and until I heard of you giving this presentation, I had never known that Ashley Schiff, and it's right here, like in my backyard, literally. So I feel a little silly, and also I'm happy that you've created this awareness. But then I wonder, how can we create more awareness to other students on campus? environmental groups. And you also mentioned that it just needs the signature of the school president to become protected.
Yeah, for the past 4 presidents, they always said no. And local assemblyman like Assemblyman Englebright, he brought it up to New York State Senate, and it was one step away, but President Stanley and everyone, they just said no. What if I want to build something there and they blame me for it, So that's why they couldn't just pass it. Yeah.
Maybe the new president might be more responsive. We can see.
Maybe.
And
but
hopefully
yeah.
enough students.
But we are the main population. We're the citizens of SVU Nation, so that's part of our job here, I think.
I think it's important that we might be able to put this on somebody's radar, and maybe us students can make enough noise.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is the preserve something that you can just go and you walk around, or are there actually any educational things, programs for kids to come and visit or walk around, or guided visitation for bird watching, something that would create public awareness of the preserve? I don't know, is any of that happening?
Yeah, if you want to go by yourself, as long as the campus is open, you can just go visit there. You can on the website we have parking information and everything, so you can visit ashlyschiff.org, and we do have a guided walk planned. It's mostly for the students, but like we always welcome anyone who wants to join. And the schedule, I believe, is maybe not on the website, but I can put it up on the website. Yeah, and local naturalists and local some of the professors from Stony Brook, they will lead the walk and pointing out different features, the natural features of the preserve.
Have you ever considered, right now, the kids aren't going on field trips at all, but have you ever considered perhaps contacting the local districts and having, tours for the students to see the nature, available right in their own area?
Yeah, sometimes they reach out to us. Schools didn't really happen, but local organizations sometimes ask us about the guided walk, but I think that can be a really helpful thing, and that definitely is a part of long-term plan. It just didn't happen yet.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Evan, for your time, and thank you for coming and speaking with all of us today. So we would like to basically switch gears a little bit and flow into our activity for the night.
Hello, everybody. Today, Ari, would you be able to pin it so that I'm the main on the screen? Thank you. Well, today I wanted to use a little bit of recycled materials in honor of Environmental Awareness Month. So found materials that we posted, basically recyclables. They can be plastics, they can be cans. Some of the materials that I'm planning on using today are going to be twine. This is like from a macrame kit that I got on clearance. You can use yarn as well instead of twine if you don't have any. Also, I have ribbon and scissors. I was tasked today to make a craft without any glue. So it's going to be a fairly simple potted plant that we're going to make. That's going to look a little bit like this. I am going to show you how to stab some holes in the bottom of the can in order for the water to drain. And then I'm going to show you how to wrap it around the can and tie a bow on it. In this case, this one's themed a little bit like the breast awareness, breast cancer awareness. So, but it doesn't have to be. I have another green one here just to show you. I decorated it a little bit with a button. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the first part of the craft. So I'm going to grab the can, or if you have a plastic container that you wanted to use. If you're using a plastic container, you're going to grab an X-Acto knife or one of these utility knives, and you're just going to pierce through the bottom and make a little hole. I would say make at least 3 holes. Similar to that, all around. If you have a can, you're going to use another common household item, can opener. So with the can opener, what you're going to do, because the bottom of the can is typically a little tricky, so it has like these little bevels over here. So in order to snag it and pierce the hole through it, you have to do a little trick. And that is, if you notice, you're going to click it in here and wedge the top portion in here, similar to what you would do on the top. And then you're just going to snap. And typically it works. It didn't work in that occasion. So let's see. Okay. Didn't realize it required a lot of force. It kind of happened very easily the last time. Okay. Once you dug in all those 3 holes, how did I manage to get this done over here? Let's see. Okay. For my next step, I'm going to grab a little bit of the twine and I'm going to affix it at the bottom and carefully wrap it around. Now I'm going to leave the stem up a little. And I'm going to use pressure to wrap it around. And I'm going to do that until I cover the majority or as much of the can as you want. Obviously, you're welcome to use your own creativity with this. If you have like different colors or if you want to paint it later, you are welcome to do that with acrylic paints, which makes it easier to add color if you wanted not to have like this natural color that it currently has right now. And just going to push it at the bottom. Also, for the attendees today, we have a couple of plant giveaways courtesy of Georgia that she donated for our raffle today. And you're just going to carefully keep tweaking it up and tightening it up so that it covers the metal. If you have a plastic container, you're going to be doing the same thing too. If you wanted to change colors, for example, I have this green macrame here. What you're going to do is you're going to tie them together and then you're going to start with a new color. Correct? The trick here is not to let go of the tension. So we have the knot, and I'm just going to continue going. I'll take care of the loose strings later, or might make them part of the craft. And again, you know, if you don't have twine, yarn works just as well too. What I like about using materials like this is if you wanted to sew or stitch on them or add more fabric, you can, which was also another consideration that I thought of, having like loose scraps of fabric. You can also use that to decorate any found materials as well. I actually picked up like a little bit of a clothing quarter from Walmart the other day in yellow, just because it's spring and I wanted to use colors that were good for spring or that spring inspired, or something that just made it like cheerful. I noticed that when I have plants in the home, if you move them around, they tend to react differently depending on how much light there is. So sometimes it's important to talk to your plants, put music for them. It really helps them get acclimated to the space. If there are outdoor plants that you brought in, just continue pushing it down so it's nice and tight. If anybody has any found materials that are not part of the required list, they're obviously welcome to use them. If they need any creative ideas, they're welcome to put them in the chat and maybe we can come up with a creative solution on how to use them. Because it's important, some of these materials don't disintegrate that easily or can't be readily recyclable. So when you throw them away, they end up in a landfill, which is kind of sad. As
Hey,
you can
Kiana.
imagine, yeah.
Sorry. While you're finishing up the twine, I think I'm just gonna start the giveaway. Is that cool? Sure. Okay, so like she said before, we are giving away 3 baby spider plants in lieu of Environmental Awareness Month and this presentation. So like usual, I put all the names of the participants in a random wheel spinner. And so again, we'll be giving away 3. And the first winner is wow, this is getting pretty long. Kathleen. Kathleen, you are the first winner. So we will send you an email to coordinate the plant giveaway. And now I'll move on to the next. Yiling, you are the second winner for tonight.
Woohoo!
Yep, finally. I know you've been coming to a lot of our events, so congratulations. Okay, and now for the last winner of the night. So we've selected Zane. I don't know if he's still here. So Zane isn't here right now. Should we just select a new one? What do you guys think?
Yeah, we can select a new.
Right, okay. I'll just go ahead and. So we're doing a respin. Karen. Karen, congratulations on your spider plant.
Woohoo. So when we start coming to the end, as I did over here, what I'm gonna do is like, you're just gonna tie the knot and tighten it up. If you tighten it with enough force, it won't move. You'll have a little bit of loose string in the end, and that might be useful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a little bow, and then we're going to attach it, and then we're done. You have a decorated potted plant pot for a new plant. I'm just going to cut some ribbon. Now I like to do the bunny ears. One over the other. And then one of the bunnies goes down under. And then you let go and you twist. But rather than tighten the bow, what you're going to do is just like flatten the center down. So that way the bow doesn't look like too tight. It looks fluffy. You're going to cut the two ends. Now, what I used is a little bit of thread, which hopefully most of us have a little bit of a sewing kit. And I also found a button in my little trusty sewing kit. So if anybody doesn't know how to thread a needle, you're going to put the, I'm just going to take the thread out. The end of the thread, you're going to loop it through that little fine needle here. And once it goes through the two ends, you're just going to tie them together. Quickly. I'm just going to stitch it on. I know that right now during COVID, like knitting became like a big thing. So I'm hoping that some of you had some of these found materials just laying around in the house. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch it to the top. Tie the knot. Now I do have the option of tying this around or just leaving it loose or cutting down the string. Entirely up to you. So all it needs right now is just some seeds and some dirt, and you can plant anything that you want. My suggestions are probably going to be around basil or tarragon, and maybe you can start an herb garden at home. But you're welcome to plant anything that you would like. Does anybody have any questions, or do they want to show what they were able to come up with their found materials at home? Right now is show and tell time tonight, and for being loyal attendees, we really appreciate you coming and being a part of our craft and education events. We're also open to suggestions at this point in time, and we want to welcome you to stop by the Zuccaire Gallery, or be able to let us know if there's anything that you would like to see. We have one more series to come, which is on April 23rd, right, Grace? Ari?
I believe it's the 24th.
It's Sunday, right? Sunday at 5.
Sunday, sorry, 25th.
Yes. Yes, that was the challenge. I was challenged to do something that was both useful and something without glue. So thank you for that, Martha. I know that even if you don't manage to use it as a pot holder, you're also welcome to use it as a pencil holder, which is typically what I tend to do too, because I like to recycle.
Yeah.
Love to recycle these kind of materials and such, like glasses, Snapple bottles. I use Snapple bottles. For me are like my ultimate water bottle.
They make perfect vases too for flowers.
They do.
Like, and the seltzer bottles, if you cut them off, and you can travel with them, they don't break. If you're giving flowers to somebody.
You know something, somebody brought up to me that this is great for weddings.
Yeah, sure.
So you know, it's kind of like you can give away plants at a wedding, and it's a nice way to like say, oh, thank you for coming for my wedding. And obviously the craft and everything itself is nice because you did it for them.
Sure. You can probably make the holes in the bottom with a nail and a hammer, if you have a nail and a hammer, because it's really hard to use the can opener.
I noticed. I don't know how I managed to do it the first time. Like, what did I do?
I have a bad can opener, so it didn't work for me. But it's okay. No problem. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending.
Thanks.
Yeah, also a final thank you to our guest speakers who had to leave early, but I thank them. We all thank them for their time and what they gave here today. And as a reminder, Anne-Marie's work is currently still up in the Zuccaire Gallery right now until I think the 18th of this month with the rest of the MFA graduates. So you guys should check that out if you can. But thank you all for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.